how would you assess Ukraine's media's role in sort of a responsibility in influencing the global West, of informing what really is going on the battlefield and on the political arena in Ukraine? Can they do more, maybe?
You know, Henry, I've thought about this, and Ukraine's media has made very, very significant strides forward, even in the time that I first went to Ukraine in 2016. We saw last year, and I always get this wrong, but Reporters Without Borders is a highly respected NGO which produces each year a freedom of the press index and of 180 countries. North Korea consistently languishes in 180th place. Russia, since I have been reading this index, has been falling from 140. I think they're now around 167. Ukraine last year rose by 25 places in 1 year, and that's at a time in the teeth of a genocidal war. That is just one of the areas where Ukraine has evidence that they are continuing to reform. So, you know, I've seen some very, very impressive examples of Ukraine's media, from the, you know, Ukraine Crisis Media Center to the people who run Stop Fake, and just the, you know, and I think Ukraine tells a very, very strong story. I'm just not sure that we are, you know, that most of us in the West are willing to hear that. We don't want to hear the truth. We cannot deal with the fact that this is something that is not a faraway war, because if Putin is allowed to succeed in Ukraine, and that horrible possibility, unfortunately, is closer today than I think it has ever been in the last 2 years since the further invasion.
How to deliver that message to the West, so the West will finally understand that this is not just Ukrainian war, that this is the next will be them, any country. I mean, even America, they would have to fight this fight if Ukraine loses the war. How to deliver that message? Maybe you have a piece of advice, because I've been recently thinking about that just as well. I can't find an answer for myself. Maybe you know.
Henry, I wish I did know. Right. You know, I've been, and look, I've done somewhere in the region of 250 television and radio interviews from about a month before the outbreak of this further invasion in February in 22. And I've gone back and I've looked at what I was saying, and I was prophesizing what would happen before the invasion, if they came. I've said, I've looked at some interviews that I kept and recorded. I've said, he has done this in Aleppo. He has done this in Grozny. This will be genocidal. He will flatten entire cities. And we have seen it come through. And, you know, I consider myself, I joke, but I consider myself B team, or the second team. But I listen to people like, I listen to the great British journalist and parliamentary candidate Ed Lucas, being interviewed a couple of nights ago, who is a great friend of Ukraine and a great authority on Ukraine. And I hear him saying things, and I listen to people like General Ben Hodges, and I listen to people like Timothy Snyder, and I listen to people like Anne Applebaum. Now, I'm a little guy at the end of the day that is doing the bit I can to help my friends in a country that I care about. Right? And I'm getting frustrated that I feel after 2 years, people are not listening to me, but they're not listening to Anne Applebaum. They're not listening to Professor Timothy Snyder. They're not listening to General Ben Hodges, the former Supreme Commander of U.S. ground forces in Europe. They're not listening to Ed Lucas. So what can we do? It's Russia has told us in clear, they tell us every single night of their genocidal intent to wipe Ukraine off the map and just subsume it into a greater Russia, and then on they will go, probably into your homelands, into the Baltics next.
Right.
And what
most
I
probably,
get
yes, they
now,
will. I'm absolutely sure they will. I mean, so do you believe that this is what is going to happen? They really need war to understand that it is war? Do you believe that in the United States, I tell you, the people of the United States, how are they doing? What is the mood of the voters in the United States in terms of, okay, Trump-Biden choice? Let's put it as simple as that. Do you believe they will go and elect Biden or Trump? What is your feeling?
I pray they will elect Joe Biden, but I don't have a crystal ball. It has got to be admitted, despite all of his legal troubles, there is a great possibility that Trump will regain the White House, and I think we can be sure that is both very, very bad news for Ukraine, but also for Europe. But Henry, there's another thing here. Europe needs to grow up, and Europe needs to man up. Europe, if we take in the UK and we take in some of the other very significant non-EU states, Europe has a combined economy that is at least 15 times the size of Russia. America, again, is a similar size. We absolutely dwarf Russia. We should have put our weapons industries on a war footing 2 years ago. We haven't. Europe is now running out of ammunition to supply to Ukraine, even if we can get over the challenge of sufficient will to give Ukraine what it needs. It's going to take a year, 2, 3 years, if the decisions are made today, to get Europe's industries on a war footing. Russia is spending 40% of its budget on the war effort. They have no compunction whatsoever. Putin has no compunction with sending tens of thousands of their own people into the meat grinder. We have not been asked to shed one drop of European blood. I always go back to what Alexei Reznikov, who was the previous defense minister, said in December 21, when the storm clouds were gathering. He did an interview on CNN, and he said, look, we're not asking for your boots on the ground. We don't expect it. Just give us the weapons we need and we'll do our own fighting. And for 2 bloody years, we have not given Ukraine the weapons they needed. We have given them a drip feed of weapons. We have been late with the modern battle tanks. We have been late with the long-range artillery, and we still are not giving them sufficient. We're still not giving them the longest range ATACMS. The Germans will still not release Taurus, because apparently Olaf Scholz knows better. Olaf Scholz said a number of weeks ago that he didn't think that Ukraine needed Taurus. I would far rather ask Valery Zaluzhny what Ukraine needs, or Vladimir Zelensky what Ukraine needs. We know that Ukrainians are training on F-16s. The F-16s are still not in the operating
exactly.
theater.
You just
when they are,
right.
We don't know how many they're going to get. It has been, we are 1 minute to midnight, and
true.
Europe needs to wake up. America needs to wake up, because this will ultimately, if America does not, this will ultimately lead to the greatest diminution of American power and influence across the globe, which of course is what Vladimir Putin and Xi in China wants. Remember one thing, America, they talk about the cost in America. America spends 0.32 of 1% of its GDP, but 5.6% of its defense budget supporting Ukraine. That is very cheap. Imagine if they just said, right, let's double it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're not setting even 1 foot of American soldier.
Without one drop of American blood.
Exactly.
And by the way, this is the thing that the American people, I think, probably either forget or are not told. 90% of that money is spent within the United States. The United States is not like Ireland or Estonia or Lithuania, small open economies. It's a massive closed economy. They could cease trading with the rest of the world tomorrow, and their national wealth wouldn't be significantly affected. That 90% of that money is being spent in the United States, creating American jobs and wealth in the United States.
Well,
it has got to be the best deal on the table for the United States. Yet they're holding up $60 billion.
Well, I mean,
being held up by Trump's stooges.
That's how it goes, and everybody knows. I mean, that's how populism works.
Can I make a point? Because you asked me the question about the American people, and I don't know, but I mean, Mike Johnson, the current Speaker of the House, who is in the vanguard of holding up this $60 million. I listened to a recording of Johnson 2 or 3 weeks ago, addressing a group of senior far-right GOP Republicans, and telling them that God wakes him up in the middle of the night and tells him what to do. And, God has told him, one night when God woke him up, God told him he had to be Moses and he had to lead the United States in a certain direction. So, I mean, I can't tell you how, people who will consume and swallow that.
I mean, what are the chances, let me put it that way, what are the chances that Joe Biden will run and seriously fight for the presidency again? Is he capable of fight even? I mean, the age, and maybe he's just tired of everything. What is your feeling about that?
My gut feeling is that he will run. My gut feeling is that he is capable of running. We are in a world where we don't give enough respect to age and wisdom anymore. Although, why they, this is a guy who sticks to a very rigorous fitness regime, unlike Donald Trump, who sticks to a very, very rigorous McDonald's routine. The reports would have us believe. I think Joe Biden will run. Joe Biden said something very interesting 2 or 3 weeks ago. He said,
what is that?
If Trump wasn't running, that he probably wouldn't run. And I think he was criticized for that.
Did
you not hear that?
I missed that. No.
He said that if Trump wasn't running, he probably wouldn't run. And to me, this was an admission that he believes, Joe Biden he's 80, he's done his bit. But I think Biden feels that he has a duty.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith, for your time and for your expertise just as well. It was a lovely conversation. What can I say?
Henry, thank you very much. It's always a great pleasure to join you, even though maybe the topic we discuss is not so joyous. And can I wish you a very happy Christmas, and all your colleagues there in the gays, and also anybody who's listening into this. Have a very happy Christmas, and please wake up.
Same, likewise, dear sir. Thank you. Goodbye.
This wolf is going to come to your door.